Have you ever spent multiple hours on just one line of code and that pattern just keeps going on and on? What if I told you that it isn't your brain? It's actually the habits that you've created. In this video, I'll walk you through the biggest mistakes that new coders make and exactly how to fix them. Because trust me, I've made them all. So by the end of this video, you'll be able to save hours of your frustration banging your head against the wall, and your future self will thank you for watching this. So let's go ahead and get into it. So if you're new, my name is Zazo. I've been coding for 10 years and I've been in the tech industry for over 8 years now. So I know a little bit of the thing about coding and also spending hours coding, writing one line of code, deleting it, and doing all this stuff over and over again. So I'm gonna tell you how to avoid that and how you can save all of your frustration and you don't have to go through what I went through. So let's go. The first thing is you're writing code without actually understanding it. So that is the key, and that's probably one of the biggest ones, right? So you're copy and pasting code that you don't understand, whether it be from back in the day when I did it, good old Stack Overflow, or nowadays what we got the youngins doing with the ChatGPT and whatnot, right? I've been there. You grab a snippet, you go ahead and copy and paste it on in your code editor, boom, it works. We're good. But then when it breaks, what happens? You're totally lost. You wanna know why? You guessed it. Because you don't know what it's actually doing, right? So copying can be okay, but understanding what your code is doing is a non-negotiable. You always want to ask, what is this actually doing? Why does it work? What would break it? Why did it break? So especially with ChatGPT nowadays, it's very easy to copy and paste, which there's nothing wrong with that. But now that you have ChatGPT, when it does break or when something isn't right, ask ChatGPT, why did this break? I don't understand what this means. Can you explain it to me? With ChatGPT being basically a senior dev just sitting right next to you, use it as a mentor and do not use it as a crutch. That's what I would recommend. The next thing is skipping the fundamentals. Listen. Frameworks are flashy, and boy, do you want to hop in and just start using a whole bunch of frameworks. Frameworks are just abstractions of the fundamentals at its core, and it's just been abstracted so you never have to worry about the fundamentals, which is terrible if that's where you're starting, right? The frameworks are meant to make things easier, assuming you already have your fundamentals down. But if you skip things like loops, conditionals, data types, you're essentially trying to build a house with no foundation. And every single time it's going to crumble under pressure. Frameworks cannot save you. They make things easier, they make things more efficient, but you need to know the fundamentals. Believe me, if you know your fundamentals through and through, it will make things a lot easier, even though it's not as flashy as the newest framework that's coming out. It'll save you time in the long run, trust me. So the next thing is, I kind of hinted on in the first one, is actually poor debugging skills. So you ever see, an error pop up and you just start randomly deleting what you just wrote? You're not understanding, you're not kind of dissecting. If I wrote this and it broke something, why exactly did it break? Don't just panic and start deleting things and just going back to the way that it worked. Understand, why did this not work when I did it? That way you can always avoid it in the future, and it is a great learning tool. Debugging is one of the best things that you can learn. It's also one of the most uncomfortable and the most tough things that you'll go through when coding, but it is an invaluable skill. So in order to kind of help debug better, you want to slow down, you want to actually read the error, you want to try to print things out. If you know about breakpoints, you can do that. You can use a debugger. Treat bugs like puzzles and not enemies. You're solving a problem when you're coding, and these bugs are literally problems within your bigger problem. And that's all that coding is. And if you're not about solving problems, you are in the wrong field, G. Lickety split the other way if you don't like to solve problems. That's all that this is. So the next mistake that I see is that beginners normally do not use version control. So this one kind of hurts, and it hurts me to my soul because I've done this and it's led to a bunch of unfinished projects because I didn't know how to undo what I did, or I did something, left it, went off for a week, came back, and I couldn't back it up to the previous version, and it just stayed unfinished because I didn't want to finish it. So when you're working and writing code, then you break it and you can't go back. Most of the times because you didn't use some type of version control. Git, you have to learn Git. And this is what I would consider, even though it's not a fundamental as far as like the programming language fundamentals, it is a fundamental and key thing for software development. So Git, toss that in there with the fundamentals, right? Version control is not just for the pros. It's literally a safety net. Every company that you're going to go to, you're going to work at, is going to have some version control. So learn the basics, the Git init, the add, the commit, the push. That's it. Learn not only the commands, but what they actually do in your code base or your repository. The next thing is you are trying to build too much too soon. If you just learned the basics of learning how to program, loops, conditionals, variables, all that type of stuff, do not try to build the next Meta or Instagram or anything like that. You'll get so demotivated so fast because that is such a tall task for you just coming out the womb with Similac on your breath, okay? So you want to take it small chunks and start those small wins, build up that confidence, then you start leveling up, right? Everybody starts with their text-based apps, or you should. Your console apps and printing stuff out and doing different calculations in the console. Then you build off of that. Then you make an interface. Then you bring in an API. Then you do some more things. You always want to build, because one of the key things in not quitting this is staying motivated to keep going, because coding is hard. It is hard. ChatGPT, all of that, it makes things easier, but actually understanding and becoming a very skilled coder or programmer, software engineer is a lot more than just copy and pasting stuff from ChatGPT. So if that's what you actually want to do and you want to be a skilled coder or, developer, engineer, then you are going to want to really understand these things before moving forward. In order to do that, you got to stay motivated. So the next thing that I see, especially with new beginner coders, is afraid to ask for help. Listen, we've all been there at some point, right? Don't spend 5 hours Googling something that you can ask someone in 5 minutes just because you're afraid of looking dumb. Listen, at the end of the day, we're all dumb in some aspect, if you look at it that way. I don't know crap about landscaping and all this other type of stuff. So you can say I'm dumb. Tell other people I'm smart. Who cares? At the end of the day, it's about your journey, your individual journey. You need to do what's best for you. And if that's asking a question, put your pride to the side, ask a question. Even if you think it's dumb, ask the question, because at the end of the day, you're going to get the value from it, and just keep going on and keep going forward. You cannot let other people's opinions dictate what you do, or else you will never be happy. Little sprinkle of some wisdom there, all right? But let's get to the next one. So writing messy, unreadable code. When you're learning, you will start with the very basics, variables, and that sort. So writing messy code as far as functionality is fine, but certain things you don't want to make messy. You don't want to make variable names messy. You want them to be clear. You want them to kind of explain themselves. You want to make your code readable, because if you don't, you will code it today and tomorrow. If you're using stuff like foo and var a, var c, var ni, et t, you're not gonna know what that means tomorrow, because it doesn't say anything. It's just random letters, random stuff that you're putting there. So make sure that you leave your comments, right? You use your indentation, you name your variables clearly. Code should be self-explanatory and not super cryptic. It should be almost like reading the English language. If you can make it that way, try your best to do so. because it makes it better for you and anybody else that is reviewing your code or looking at your code. This one I cannot stress enough, but not reading documentation. It is very easy to get caught up in ChatGPT and just completely not read documentation. ChatGPT is great. I will say that. And I use ChatGPT. I use Cursor AI. I use these AI tools. I'm not going to deny it. However, there is something about reading documentation when you go through a library or something or an API and you look at their documentation and you just go through and just take some time to really just go through, know what the capabilities are of these different libraries through their documentation. You can kind of like subconsciously, you sort of store stuff and know what this library can do. And that way, if you are using ChatGPT, you can kind of be more specific in what you're asking it to give you back. But read documentation. It actually is very, very good. And I actually didn't start doing this till a couple years ago. Bad habits. But when I did, man, it made things a lot more efficient for me. Another thing is letting imposter syndrome get in your way. Look, imposter syndrome is going to be there. Like I said, coding is hard. Imposter syndrome is going to be there. You're going to think everybody's better than you. You're always behind. But here's the truth. Everyone feels this way, even senior people, even me at times. I get handed tasks that I don't know if I can actually do them, but I let that sit in my mind for a couple minutes. Then after that, I say, I'm going to tackle this beast. We're going to go straight in and I'm going to figure it out. Don't compare your beginning to somebody else's highlight reel. Just focus on your growth. You don't have to focus on perfection. So I'm gonna give you a little bonus one here. When you're coding, write tests. So coding without testing it's all right to start that way, but this is a bonus one if you really want to level up, if you want to write tests around your functionality, because it always works until it doesn't, because you didn't test it at all. I've been there. I'm sure you've probably been there at some point, but even the simplest tests help. For example, if something isn't supposed to return null, or if a function isn't supposed to return null, or that's never supposed to be a possibility, write a simple test, because that will save you time in the future. Simple tests are better than no tests. And if you get used to writing those tests, you get in the same mindset as, write this functionality, I know how I want to test it. It betters your problem solving skills. So like I said, coding is hard. Mistakes are normal. You're not alone here. So what matters the most is how you learn from those mistakes. If this has helped you in any way, go ahead and leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Let me know, what is your biggest coding mistake? Like I said, everything that I've listed is one of mine. My biggest one, I would probably say, is trying to copy and paste without understanding. I mean, we all do it. We've all done it. If you haven't done it, you're probably gonna try it. All right, but leave that down in the comments. What is your biggest coding mistakes? Don't forget to subscribe for more real talk on learning to code. Love, peace, and chicken grease. I'll see y'all in the next one.